The Crown decided to call a senior RCMP commissioned officer from Manitoba to get on the stand for about an hour and a half and to have a good old cry in front of a jury. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to share?
No, those are my comments for today. I have nothing else to share. It's unfortunate, but this is something that nobody could have expected. And to me, this needs. There should almost be some sort of instruction to address this, because this is a motion that doesn't fit into into the role of the jury and the justice. This goes far beyond that. This is bias far beyond that of a commissioned, seasoned RCMP officer.
An RCMP officer with almost 30 years of experience appeared to break down and cry and was emotional during his testimony this morning in the Coutts Three trial. This is Robert Kraychik reporting for Rebel News here in Lethbridge, Alberta. The three defendants, Marco van Hugenbos, Alex van Herk, and George Jansen, are all being accused of mischief over $5,000 for their roles, their participation in the Coutts border protest and blockade of 2022. This occurred at the same time as the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, Ontario, and the two demonstrations shared opposition to these public health orders, edicts, and mandates imposed upon us by our different levels of government. The two demonstrations also shared a common strategy of peaceful assembly and civil disobedience. The RCMP officer, Gordon Corbett, worked as a sort of overseer, manager in the context of the Coutts protest and blockade. He appeared to cry, appeared to be emotional while testifying, while he was reflecting on what he said was a moment of intimidation directed at a female RCMP officer, colleague of his, in the context of this protest. This female RCMP police officer is normally assigned to desk duties, but was sent to aid in the RCMP effort to be in attendance at this protest. Apparently, a tractor with a large blade, a sort of snowplow type machine, was moving in a way that was scary and frightening to this female RCMP officer. And while reflecting on what he had heard from this officer on the radio, Corbett began to emote and seemed to be crying and emotional. Keep in mind that Corbett has been working for the RCMP for almost 30 years. His current rank is that of superintendent, and his role is one of critical incident commander. So he deals with these sorts of things as part of his duties in his current role and previous roles. I spoke with the defendants outside of proceedings, and all of them, George Jansen, Alex van Herk, and Marco van Hugenbos, told me that they had essentially no dealings with Gordon Corbett, that they had seen him one time. Now, even though Gordon Corbett was sent to Coutts for the majority of the demonstration and protest, he had, from what I gather from the defendants and other Coutts demonstrators who are here in attendance during the proceedings, he was distant. He was far from the actual protesters, sort of in a distant managerial overseeing role, so had very little firsthand observations of the defendants themselves or of the protest in an intimate sense. Essentially, every single video that's been introduced into this trial as either a piece of evidence or as an exhibit has been recorded by Rebel News. So I'm sitting there in the courtroom observing the proceedings, and every time a video is presented by either the Crown or the defense teams, with one exception, I'm seeing a Rebel News watermark there. This reflects the centrality of Rebel News' journalism and reporting to this trial, which continues to this day with our ongoing coverage of this trial. The other side of this coin is the absence of any video or audio provided by the RCMP to the Crown. There has not been one single piece of video or audio submitted into this trial from the RCMP. Now, this is noteworthy because the RCMP had at least 4 officers operating as liaisons, regularly dealing with different protesters, including the 3 defendants. Yet not a single piece of audio or video, I cannot emphasize this enough, has been provided by the RCMP. The RCMP's apparent lack of use of body cams among its officers that were deployed to the Coutts protest became pretty apparent when RCMP officers Mark Wilgosh and Greg Tulloch, who both worked as liaisons in this protest between the RCMP and the protesters, had to repeatedly rely on their notes, either handwritten or dictated, in order to refresh their memories in testimony when questioned by either the prosecution or the defense teams. So the absence of audio or video that they could consult to refresh their memories jumped out at that point. I remember with Marco Van Hugenbos, one of the defendants in the Coutts Three trial, we had an RCMP officer. He's now a superintendent. He's sort of an overseer over in the context of the Coutts protest. His name is Gordon Corbett. Gordon Corbett sort of emoted on the stand today, was appearing to sort of cry, as it were. Do you want to remark on that at all? What you observed, what you thought about that?
Yeah, so the testimony of Sergeant Greg Tulloch ended this morning, and the Crown brought forward their next witness, critical incident commander, Superintendent Gord Corbett. He was posted in Alberta during the 2022, during February of 2022, and he has since been posted in Manitoba. So they brought in Gordon Corbett from Manitoba, and his testimony was relatively short. He was at the Coutts blockade from the January 29th to February the 6th, and then he came back on the 8th till the 15th. The Crown didn't take too much time leading him to the incident or the events of February the 13th, the evening of February the 13th, the incident where a tractor was driving around an intersection and may have intimidated a RCMP desk duty officer. You have to remember that resources were very thin at that time due to all the protests and the demonstrations across the country. So the RCMP was extremely short-staffed. So all regular desk duty, all levels of law enforcement were engaged in the various events across the country. So we have a desk duty officer manning a checkpoint, performing a monitoring position at a location close to Coutts, and a tractor, a significant piece of equipment, is moving in a manner that is intimidating for her. Now, in Southern Alberta, something like that wouldn't necessarily be seen as intimidating. It might be seen as the order of the day, equipment on the highway, farming background, all of that. For her, being probably from a non-farming background, not being necessarily she might have been field trained, but definitely not field experienced, performing a administrative function for the RCMP. This was what could be seen as normal behavior, was very intimidating for her, and it triggered a serious RCMP response. Superintendent Gordon Corbett, in his testimony today, before he even got to answering the questions put forward by Crown Prosecutor Stephen Johnson, became very emotional on the stand. Emotional in a manner that the defense and all of the gallery has never seen before in any courts across this country. We have an officer they brought in from Manitoba who is a critical incident commander. This individual is trained, he's specialized to deal with critical incidents. And this is now 26 months ago. This officer is under oath, on the stand, and the man has a good cry. The man literally breaks down. The court was stunned. The jury, in the opinion of the observers, was mortified to some degree. In whatever context, I'm not sure, but to me, this was not only unprofessional, but to some degree significantly orchestrated against the defendants. So, very unfortunate. To me, this is a disgusting, unnecessary form of bias, almost intimidation, exaggeration, and it was nothing but a show. So that's what we ended off what could very well be the Crown's case. Tomorrow morning, we know if the Crown will close their case, and we move on to the next part of this prosecution. But the Crown decided to call a senior RCMP commissioned officer from Manitoba to get on the stand for about an hour and a half and to have a good old cry in front of a jury. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to share?
No, those are my comments for today. I have nothing else to share. It's unfortunate, but this is something that nobody could have expected, and to me, there should almost be some sort of instruction to address this, because this is emotion that doesn't fit into into the role of the jury and the justice. This goes far beyond that. This is bias far beyond that of a commissioned, seasoned RCMP officer.
We're running 2 fundraising campaigns in relation to this trial. The first is to help offset the costs on the defendants for their legal teams. Visit Coutts3.com and donate. And if you do, you'll be issued a charitable receipt, because this fundraiser is being administered by a nonprofit organization that we work with known as the Democracy Fund. And they're committed to defending your Canadian constitutional rights and freedoms. The second campaign is to fund our journalism, our reporting, in the form of me being sent here from Ottawa. So I need airfare, I need Airbnb, I need a rental car. It's all modest, but still costs money. It's not free. So if you value what we're doing here, this in-the-field, independent, original journalism and reporting, please help us continue with that by donating. You can visit truckertrials.com.